While the three biggest stars of last decade still going strong well into the mid-2020s, the greatness of LeBron, Steph, and KD, all three will be greatly remembered in the all-time basketball history books. Many of the other stars in their era have been retired for years now. Some recently announced their farewell to the game, while some of the very good players drafted a couple years before LeBron already inducted to the Hall of Fame. The 2024 class will highlight Vince Carter, and finally, Mr. Big Shot Chauncey Billups gets his respect, being retired for a full decade. Anybody who started watching ball in the mid-2010s couldn't believe a couple superstars had their primes cut short, never becoming the same, aging out the league, and somewhat forgotten just a few years later. Some of these retired players even discussed as MVP candidates during their primes. Now, the only basketball question remains for their legacies. Are they good enough to be cherished? In Naismith Museum, located in Springfield, Massachusetts. Starting with the most obvious of the yes, many might not stand them and argue against their cases, but it's a guaranteed lock. Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard both 100% will make the Hall. Anthony made the top 75 list, which many disagree. The way he was talked about during his last couple seasons with the Knicks and with OKC and Houston was getting Lakers Russell Westbrook type hate. Same goes with D12, from being one of the best players in his prime to the ultimate journeyman. If 26-year-old Howard decided to retire in 2012 with Orlando, that short career alone qualifies him as a Hall of Famer despite his second half career disasters. These guys being an absolute toss-up, some might have to wait a full decade to make their farewell speech in Springfield after 2030. Other former greats have waited 20 plus years post-retirement. Some might continue to think about it, only to find out it'll never happen. Starting with Joe Johnson, who played a game for Boston 2022 after joining the Big Three League. His last full season 2018 with Utah and Houston, arguably the most quiet 7-time All-Star, 6 of them with Atlanta. Only made one All-NBA team in 2010. Realistically, Joe Jesus wouldn't have made 5 All-Stars if he spent his best years in the tougher Western Conference. Known as a lethal scorer, only had 5 20-plus point seasons, did lead Atlanta to the postseason 5 straight years before traded to Brooklyn, but looked like a role player in the biggest matchups, especially come second round, getting ran out the gym by 2009 LeBron, 2010 Dwight, and 2011 Derrick Rose. ISO Joe was never viewed anywhere close to a superstar. His case for making the Hall, though, responsible for 8 buzzer-beating game winners for his career, ties Kobe and LeBron for number 2 all-time. Absolutely somebody who want the ball in his hands for the last shot, given his longevity. Having 20k points, 5,000 rebounds, 5,000 assists, one of 16 all-time to do so. In my opinion, Johnson not in the Hall of Fame, more like Hall of Very Good. Never finished past 12 in MVP voting. His absolute travesty Game 7 2013 performance at home, scoring 6 points, losing to the Derrick Rose Les Bowls, a massive disappointment. His all-around average is not bad, but isn't Hall of Fame worthy in my opinion. Never good enough as a first option or second to carry a team far. Made the conference finals 2 times as a role player, but there will be many down years on who gets inducted. We could likely see Joe's name sometime within the next 10 years. If he does get it, will be one of the bottom tier Hall of Famers. Rajon Rondo. The 2-time NBA champ was supposed to be an all-time great point guard, rivaled Chris Paul, but after his knee injuries for Boston, prime Rondo never quite the same. Ever since 2013, his regular season impact not too effective, but always played his best in the postseason, earning the nickname Playoff Rondo, having over a 60% chance. For Basketball Reference, had it not been for his injuries, would have likely finished top 5 all-time in assists, 4 All-Stars, 3-time assist champ, with 4 defensive teams. His resume trumps Joe Johnson's, later becoming the main guy when Boston's Big Three got old. Despite making only 1 All-NBA, a great leader on a contender, super competitive. From going toe-to-toe with second-year D Rose in one of the greatest first-round series to even outplaying LeBron last 3 games of the 2010 semis, hounded Orlando's old Jason Williams the following year. Rondo did lose some reputation with Dallas's Rick Carlisle, but to be honest, other stars and Rick didn't get along the best, ended up just fine, nearly upsetting #1 Boston with the Bulls before his untimely injury, helped take New Orleans to another level, humiliating Dame's Blazers, and even becoming the Lakers' third best player in certain playoff series during their bubble title. Those are some of his strongest Hall of Fame arguments. One of those guys who might have to wait a decade or two to get in during a weak year. If Rondo does become an excellent head coach one day and draws up plays in the clutch, it'll remind longtime media voters about his playing days. As long as he doesn't piss anyone off hardcore in the league, his considerations looking probable. Darren Williams. Once upon a time in discussion as best point guard in the game, his career faded way too quickly. Many teenagers have no idea who he is. The 3-time All-Star had one of the nastiest crossovers, excelled under Jerry Sloan, had some playoff success before CP3's time with the Clippers, in conversation as a top 10 player even. Looked strong first year in New Jersey, but after moving to Brooklyn, the pressure and criticism got to him, plus the brutal ankle injuries and underachieving results made Williams lose motivation for the game. Already declining at 28, wasn't liked by Paul Pierce or KG, having some memorable 0-point playoff games, embarrassed himself out the league after the 2017 finals. Williams absolutely not a Hall of Famer, one of the quickest declines from any star player we'll ever see. Amare Stoudemire, one of the most electrifying bigs of the 2000s, the thunderous slams and relentless offensive energy made him a 6-time All-Star, but also super injury prone, unlucky breaks. Although his peak greater than former teammate Sean Marion's, Stat never won a title, his best opportunity ruined by an accidental suspension, especially the Robert Ory heat check moment. Despite making 5 All-NBA teams, cracked the top 10 for MVP 4 times, had better playoff success than Hall of Fame draftmate Yao Ming, but with the international legacy and impact guarantee him the spot in the Hall. Amar'e also heavily declined after year 1 with the Knicks. Didn't have a long prime, no college hoops background to fall on. Sometime in the 2030s, that will likely be invited on stage to look back on his basketball legacy. Blake Griffin, very identical and similar skill set to Stat. Amar'e the crazier scorer in his prime, but Griffin the better passer, more complete as a player with the handles. Both ruined by injuries, Blake did finish third for MVP 2014, had the more popular image during his playing days when social media was starting to blow up, the revolutionary slam dunks, especially between 2010 to 2015, highlighting the exciting Lob City era with a strong collegiate career at Oklahoma, won the Naismith and Wooden Awards. That's already a stronger case than Amar'e, even if many believe Stat the more superior NBA career, but not by much. Griffin also transformed his skill set entirely before his entire body broke down, carrying the sorry Pistons. From strictly athleticism and a full-time dunker who couldn't shoot, Blake actually worked on his jumper, became decent. Also a good passer during his later years, turning many weaknesses into strengths. Him and CP3 bringing excitement to a struggling Clippers franchise won't ever be forgotten, but if Griffin somehow makes the Hall before Amar'e, then don't be surprised to see Stoudemire get in shortly after. Marc Gasol, with international success and an icon for Team Spain, is a 100% yes, but if Marc was American, from being a second-round drawing piece to changing the Grizzlies franchise around, one of the best 10 passing centers, and 1 Defensive Player of the Year to showcase, Marc's nowhere near the most talented, but accomplished everything imaginable, from being a vital role player on a title team, 3 All-Stars, 1 first team to his name. If you only count his NBA career, it's a toss-up, but given his legacy overseas, the younger Gasol will be heavily remembered, will join brother Pau in Springfield very soon. Andre Iguodala, 1 free agent decision changed his career, took his talents to the next dynasty, never looked back, was one of the most improbable finals MVPs nobody could have imagined, 4 titles, from very good player to perfect role player, literally last decade's Drew Holiday, an Olympic gold medalist and FIBA champ. Individually, there's many players with better numbers, but how many one-dimensional scorers can play Iggy's role on a great team, elevating them to all-time elite status? Given all the winning alone outside the NBA, Dre will probably need to wait 10 years, similar to Chauncey Billups, who's had a better career. Iguodala, the most durable guy in the 2004 draft, will need to be patient. LaMarcus Aldridge, The 7-time All-Star, all in the tough Western Conference, made 5 All-NBA teams, one of the best power forwards of his generation, a deadly mid-range J, LA's name often forgotten, a career 19-8 stat line, very underappreciated in Portland, overshadowed by players like Dirk with a similar style at a higher level. LaMarcus, a top 15 player between 2011 to 2019, his peak not as high as Griffin's or Amare's, but aged much better, with more consistency through the latter part of his career. The biggest argument against him is never winning a championship, despite proven to carry a team winning a bunch of playoff series as a first option, unlike Chris Bosh, who didn't even win a series before becoming a number 3 on a super team. Bosh easily gets in, but LA's all-around skill set with the go-to offensive moves and sustained excellence never being a head case will likely get in the Hall, but it might take a couple rounds after eligible. DeMarcus Cousins, formerly with the Sacramento Kings, the 4-time All-Star and 2-time All-NBAer, only lasted 119 more career games since the devastating Achilles tear. That's less than 1.5 full seasons since the 28-year-old was balling out his mind, but given his temperament and developing a bad rap for snapping out, the attitude problems will absolutely leave an unfavorable taste in the minds of many. Having Hall of Fame level talent for sure, a unique big man who can handle pass and play out the perimeter, was doing Joel Embiid things before Joel, but Cousins, known for putting up empty stats, continued losing each of his 6 seasons with Sacramento. Not a good look, and given New Orleans played better without him to finish the 2018 season, and Cousins' ring chase only to get hurt in Golden State and the Lakers, and known for being a locker room bully, out the league by 31, DeMarcus Cousins will never get inducted in the Naismith Hall of Fame. John Wall, a better career than college teammate Cousins, but having a brutal exit, known for one of the typical bad contract Wizards guys, the most exciting DC player the last decade, career numbers of almost 19-9, an explosive point guard with elite vision and tenacious defense, but failed to capture a single 50-win season, no conference finals to show. Had Wall beaten Boston in 2017, his chances at the Hall increases significantly, but after that Achilles tear, being a shell of his former self, never quite reaching his peak. Had Wall even played 2 more seasons, similar to his 2017 version, having both team and individual success, he would have likely made the Hall, but just 147 games played after the age of 26, John Wall absolutely not a Hall of Famer. Kemba Walker, one of the most likable stars of his time. If anybody had one good player they feel bad for, many would go with the Bronx native. Played just a quarter short of 1,000 games, spent 8 wasteful seasons in Charlotte, especially his prime, becoming the franchise's most decorated player, only 2 playoff appearances before taking his talents to Boston, getting to the conference finals until his body couldn't handle NBA basketball, regressed heavily on both ends after 2020, his knees took plenty of punishment, most nights as a one-man show for the Bobcats turned Hornets. Walker's best days nowhere near as good as John Wall, Blake Griffin, or Amare's, but leading number 11 UConn to the most improbable title run college basketball's ever seen will forever be Kemba's greatest basketball legacy. The most iconic game winner March Madness will remember, but never close to being an MVP candidate, only made 1 All-NBA team. Walker's NBA credentials absolutely not enough to get in. Paul Millsap, one of the most successful second-round picks in the week draft, the 6'7" undersized power forward, had high motor, maximized his full potential, 4 straight All-Star selections with all of the Hawks, got the benefit of the doubt being out east, but never even close to being considered top 15 player in the league, no All-NBAs to show for, more remembered as a role player under Darren Williams' Jazz, one of the main starters for the good regular season Hawks, then back to being a role player with Jokic Nuggets. Despite a solid IQ and great defense, if guys like Chris Webber was considered a borderline Hall of Famer that took many years to get in, Paul Millsap absolutely not a Hall of Famer. Goran Dragic, not a definite no given his incredible international career, FIBA Eurobasket MVP 2017, a Slovenian league title. If he continues to be a strong ambassador for the game, will definitely get a few nominations, having occasional playoff explosions, especially 2010 Spurs and the 2020 Miami Heat finals run. From being viewed Steve Nash's backup to getting dunked on by Derrick Rose, Dragic then made a huge name for himself, while most improved player, learned how to impact the game in many ways, a role model for the younger Luka Doncic. Depending how much Luka continues to praise his home country teammate, Dragic's legacy will be even more respected over time. Many think he has no shot at the Hall, but given the leadership and winning qualities, it's honestly closer to 50-50. We might have to wait 2 decades to find out. Other honorable mentions includes Gordon Hayward, Luol Deng, Joakim Noah, Victor Oladipo. None of those will make the Hall of Fame, but active players who hasn't been retired, Derrick Rose, most likely not, but he might get in a couple decades from now. Looking back as a former MVP, prime career cut short due to injuries, Al Horford an absolute yes, Mike Conley a 50-50 toss-up, probably yes 20 years from now, Drew Holiday trending like a yes, Kyle Lowry 100% yes. Which one of these former big namers will actually make the Hall of Fame? Your thoughts on the comments below. See y'all next video.